Welcome to another episode of Taboo Talks. I'm your host, Tiffany Ramm, and for those of you who might be new here, Taboo Talks is a show dedicated to creating a safe space to have courageous conversations about some of society's most taboo topics. And this week's topic is the hijab and the women who wear them and how they're liberating and not limiting. And here to discuss it with us is a very beautiful hijab-wearing woman, Neda, and also known as a social media sensation, Hijabalicious, really everywhere. I've seen you on TikTok and Instagram. And so I want to start the conversation with, how long have you worn your hijab?
I have been wearing it since I was 21 and I'm 33 now. And I made the decision. Yeah, I made the decision to wear it when I was 21 because that's when I actually started learning about it on my own. Growing up Iranian, I just thought that like people who wear hijab, like were forced to wear it.
Mm-hmm.
Or it's like a cultural thing that's not my culture. So, even though I was Muslim, I don't consider myself to have been very practicing back then or taking it seriously. So, I didn't really understand what hijab meant. I just kind of saw it. I was like, nope, don't want to do that.
Which is probably why I gravitated towards you watching on social media, is because that was part of your testimony, was that you didn't grow up wearing it and that you chose to wear it. That's not just like a cultural thing that's imposed on you. So what were some of the factors that went into you choosing to wear hijab?
I think when I went to UCLA and I was around other Muslims who were actually nice to me, and I saw that okay, Muslim communities do not always have to be rigid. Even though that's what I grew up around and I became resentful of it. I started learning that things are different than what I've been taught growing up. And there's some things that I was taught that are flawed. So I guess when I started learning about Islam, on my own with people who I actually liked and trusted, I started to see how much I misunderstood. And when I started to take more seriously my Islamic identity, I decided to wear it because I just thought I want to be seen as Muslim. That's it. I want that to be the first thing people know about me.
So it's really like a badge of honor for you then, because you're like, yeah, when people see me, they see hijab, they know that's Islam and that I'm Muslim.
Yeah, that's exactly why I started wearing it. I wanted, especially because I had just become a nurse, I just felt very gratified knowing that my patients remember a Muslim woman taking care of them.
That's awesome. I like that spin on it too. Like you said, like it was a badge of honor versus disgrace. And it should be, because the Islamic religion is really beautiful. And that's another thing that I've noticed on Instagram, especially your TikTok, really clever rebuttals to people misquoting the Quran or like harassing you, and your comebacks, I really just really appreciate. So leading that into, how is it liberating versus limiting? I noticed part of your history that you were really active and athletic. Were you how many sports have you really participated in your lifetime?
I've been a swimmer since I've been swimming competitively, I think, since I was 13. Obviously with pole, I don't swim as much as I used to, but yeah, back then I would just wear a regular one piece. And, once I started wearing hijab, I found clothing that would accommodate me, like rash guards or swim leggings and, my swim cap. So yeah.
That's awesome. And now I did notice, and I wish I would have done my research before you started, because I have seen a trend of different Birkin bikinis and actual whole not swim care, but swim lines that are covering. Have you tried any of those lines?
Because I swim for speed mostly, I do wear clothing that doesn't drag as much. So if you saw what I wear when I swim, I'm wearing like a one piece and then swim leggings over, and then a rash guard. All those are a little bit tighter and they're nylon or polyester. So they create less drag when I'm swimming. Not everybody sees those articles of clothing as totally hijab compliant. But again, a lot of people have different interpretations as to what constitutes as appropriate hijab. Right? There's people that believe that wearing pants is not aligned with wearing appropriate hijab. So just like with any type of religious practice, you have different interpretations on what is tradition to begin with.
Well, and now that you say that, I realize I just caught my own limiting belief. And I'm like, wait, I actually do know the answer to this, but I realize I'm speaking about it in a way that is limiting, which is hijab is not actually just limited to your headdress. Is it,
Yeah.
what is hijab?
So with wearing hijab, it identifies us as Muslim women, whether it's a religious obligation or not.
Mm-hmm.
That's often up for debate. Just like any religious practices, you know.
Right.
But usually with wearing hijab, it's like your legs are covered as well as your arms. And, you know, obviously that's where things start to get kind of tricky because, you know, like your hair is covered and all that. But I mean, that's why some people comment on my ass a lot.
Yeah.
Like on my Instagram, because they see it as like, well, if she's wearing hijab, then like she needs to have the figure of her butt covered as well. We could all see her butt. And I'm like, why are you looking at my butt so much? Like,
right.
So it's big. What do you want me to do? Like,
you're like, you would notice that that wasn't a dress or a skirt or whatnot. And that brings to two things. So you have been a swimmer prior to starting to wear hijab, and then also been able to continue that sport even though you wear hijab. But then also, if you guys choose to, and of course I will down below on all social media platforms, will be tagging and putting in Neda's Hijab-alicious links so you can go check her out, is that I found her because I'm a pole dancing novice myself. And I found you because you're pole dancing. And of course, that has obviously raised a lot of interest in the pole community, as well as I'm sure the Muslim community and just whoever's gazing eyes have found you in regards to the varying range of opinion on if that's appropriate for you. Not like pole doesn't have its own stigma already, but what are some, you alluded to it, which is your bum being noticeable, but you are still fully clothed, pole dancing in hijab, which for me, let me just say, Neda, like, especially also a curvy girl, because you're full figured, as am I, pole is hard. So you are very strong. The moves you are doing take a lot of skill. And then when I realized your timeline and you're like, oh, I've been doing this for like a year, I'm like, wait, what? Like, you're super strong, right? And obviously swimming helped you with some of that strength, I'm imagining. But I really challenge people to think before they even comment on, you know, your religion or your hijab, is that to recognize the strength and beauty you show in the skill, and the fact that I think it, do you feel that wearing hijab makes it more difficult at all?
I mean, this is what I'm used to, you know, even the times that I've like done like pole in just a regular two-piece, like in all women's classes or in small groups where I know I'm not gonna be accidentally in someone's video. It's still hard with skin exposed because I sweat, and even with wearing like grippy clothes and all that, I mean, I wouldn't say it's hard for me because this is my baseline.
Okay.
You know, and also wearing like grip clothing and stuff, like, yeah, it is extra layers of clothes, but it also prevents me from slipping on the pole from sweat from like uncovered skin.
So I'm glad you mentioned that, because this is, I joke with people all the time, but it's a very serious joke, is why I could never be a stripper, is I would die, because I'm very sweaty. And there's no, for those of you who are not pole dancers, there's a number of resin grippy products, and I own like 4 of them and use them consistently to prevent you from slipping and dying. Essentially, like, the pole is an apparatus, and I'm a sweaty girl, and there's still just days that, yeah, I just have to stop, pull off, dry off. And so watching you, I was like, grippy pants, that's a thing. Like, that was the first time I was really introduced to the idea of grippy pants. And I was like, why didn't I think of this? So I think you make it beautiful because you're introducing a layer of things. Like I said, it's very liberating. You found a way to not have hijab be an excuse to not do things, and to not let people and naysayers scare you away. Which brings me to this topic. Did you expect to become an internet sensation?
Hell no. I didn't see what I was doing was a big deal. I was like, well, the way I wear hijab is criticized anyway, and everybody that wears hijab is criticized, because if you're a woman wearing clothes, you will get criticized no matter what religion you are, right? I get criticized by non-Muslims as well. which is strange, you know.
I always wonder, do you feel like a good portion of the I feel like even when I read the comments, when they try to make it sound like it's a Muslim man, they'll be like, yeah, you should cover your whole body or something. It
Yeah.
feels like it's not a Muslim person. Like, can you
No,
tell by
many times it's not.
okay.
No, many times it's like, oh, if you were really wearing hijab, like blah blah blah, and I'm just like, well, you know, like it's just, I think it's people that want to say that what you're doing is not good enough,
Mm-hmm.
being sanctimonious for no reason, um, you know, me being told that what I'm wearing is not 100% compliant with hijab because my figure is showing, like I've been hearing that since I was 14. Like when I'm
Mm-hmm.
walking into a masjid, there has never been a period in my life where I was a skinny girl, you know, because I come from a legacy of big women. Everyone's big, you know, we're all beefy, right? So if
Right.
I come to, you know, um, so if I come into, I was used to coming into a masjid and some auntie or whatever would try to tell me to like cover up more, even though I'm like just wearing my shirt and pants. But because I had a thicker ass, you know, I was told to cover it up more. When the skinny girls would not get such thing. So,
Mm-hmm.
you know, but yeah, as far as non-Muslims talking shit, like I think it's just trying to be sanctimonious. I think it's trying to discredit
Mm-hmm.
um a religious practice as well.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I mean, it's the internet. People project all the time. I don't have
Yes.
time to be their psychologist or whatever. I'm like, just block. Like,
Right.
yeah.
But on the flip side, how many people have sent you like positive comments and like, oh, you've inspired me, or that's really, like are you getting
Oh, every
positive?
day, every day. You know, maybe I'll get called a whore every 3 weeks, but I mean, every day, like I'm getting positive comments from people
Right. And
saying, not even like, oh,
oh no, go ahead.
mhm.
Sorry. There's a
No, I
girl.
was gonna say, like, not even like, oh, we're so inspired that you're Muslim. Many comments I get, many messages is usually like, we thought, I thought you had to be skinny to do pole, but when I see, your body type doing pole, like it motivates me to try it as well.
Mm-hmm. And so let's get there because I get the question. But for you, what led you to pole dance? Or like was there a certain person or something you saw? Like why pole dancing for you?
I had just finished a 2 mile peer-to-peer race that I was training for in the ocean. And
Mm.
the next day I was like, I just don't want to swim for the next couple weeks. So let's see what ClassPass has. And I saw a pole dance like studio offering a free trial. And I was just like, I want to try some whole shit. This sounds fun. You know, I just thought pole dance was whole shit. I was like, well, I don't, if it's in an all women space, I don't see the problem, you know? Um, so yeah, I don't deny that pole comes from, the pole is largely influenced by strippers. I wanted to go learn from strippers, right? I think it's silly to try to deny that,
Right.
but anyway, like yeah, I went to my first class and I was like, okay, it was kind of awkward doing like, sensual stuff and all that because I wasn't used to it. But like,
Mhm.
but aside from that, I mean, like, the teacher was super body positive. Everybody was super encouraging in the class. I just felt very welcomed. It was very different from any other fitness class I had done before, any other dance class.
Mhm.
Definitely wasn't that formal. So I mean, I just had a good time and I just kept coming back. Um, so
That's
that's what happened. And
great.
yeah, and then I started to feel I mean, it was hard. It when I started noticing that like this is a physically difficult feat. I just saw it as like I want to get better at this. I want to know that I could do it.
Mhm.
And when I started to like make more gains physically, that's when I was like, okay, there is an aspect of pole that I am comfortable putting publicly. Which is the acrobatic aspect of it,
Mhm.
where for my boundary, I do not put anything sensual or erotic or anything. If you want to see
Mhm.
my ass as sensual or erotic, that's your problem. But I mean, as far as the dance movements itself, I was like, okay, well, if I'm doing mostly tricks that involve pulling myself up,
Mhm.
flipping backwards, all that stuff, I'm fine with it.
Right. And you touched on so many points. One, that inverting is extraordinarily athletic. It's I haven't actually tried man bird for a while, but I lost it during the quarantine a little bit because I wasn't actually working at it every day. I'm lucky enough to have a pole at home. It looks like you do. Do you have a pole at home?
Yeah, I have a stage pole at home. It's silicone coated, so that's how I'm able to like pull and close at home. Um, but yeah, I took mine down for now because the studio's been open and I've been taking classes through there. So
Right. That is the preference, is pulling in class. It adds a certain element, I think, for me, especially being a career girl, when I'm trying new things, just knowing there's a human there to spot me.
yeah,
Just things
but
that
I
I've
mean, my home pole served me during the pandemic because I didn't have swimming as an option during that time. My home pole is what got me progressing a lot because my instructors were able to do FaceTime classes.
Right. And so I've watched you progress, and everybody else can go watch you progress on the social media platforms. And I love that you brought to the point that you make a point to only post your acrobatic stuff, but I did kind of hear a hint that you do the other stuff, you just don't post it. Is that what I picked
Yeah,
up?
I mean, I don't have as much time lately, but when I did have more time, doing like the FaceTime classes, like,
Mhm.
floor work, like erotic floor work and everything like that. It is really fun doing by myself. There is a lot to be gained from like learning those kind of movements and all that. Cause I mean, it's fun. And also it just teaches you to be more comfortable with your body. I think that, I think becoming comfortable with your body is more celebrated when it's a public journey, which is fine if that's what's empowering for you. But I think we don't talk enough about like how, it can be empowering as a private thing as well. Like just because it's a private thing, it doesn't mean that you're trying to hide.
Right. Thank you. Just because it's a private thing doesn't mean you're trying to hide. I think we need to practice that in life in general, right? Whether it's like not posting our significant others or not telling every detail about our careers, just having a little bit, really having more of appropriate boundaries and a filter. So you definitely touched on a ton of good points. Also to the fact that you know the history. I applaud you for actually just saying it and knowing that pole, as it is known today, was furthered and really developed by strippers. Yes, pole dancing existed prior to exotic dancing, but actual strippers, US-based strippers, really brought pole dancing to where it is now and pushed the sport even as a sport. So I'm glad you know that and said like that's why you joined. And that was my experience. Or do you dabble in any other recreational things that maybe would be considered quote unquote taboo, or like taboo with hijab?
I mean, in retrospect, when I was not confronting my actual problems, um, but now that after therapy and all that stuff, I'm like, I don't feel like entertaining y'all anymore. Like I know I entertain, on Instagram and stuff, but not with stand up. I'm just like, I don't really feel like making fun of my problems anymore. I've actually processed that shit, so I'm good now, y'all.
Got it. So you don't do like self-deprecating comedy anymore, it sounds like.
No, I mean, it used to be funny when I was like unhealed and shit. But I mean, at that time, when I was in like, whatever toxic environment that I was in, I didn't realize what a
Mhm.
toxic environment was because I was used to it, you
Right.
know?
That was your norm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, good to know. I didn't know you dabbled in stand-up comedy, or you
Yeah.
still do stand-up comedy.
I think from probably like 2014 until maybe 2017 or something like that. I mean, I go to open mics, I get invited to speak and all that stuff. Like I definitely wasn't making like money off of it, but I mean, it was cathartic at the time.
Mm-hmm. Well, wonderful. For people who follow me, they know I'm a connoisseur of stand-up comedy. I know many stand-up comedians. Many of them will be on this show. And one was already, or two were already on the first episode. So yeah, I love comedy. I think it definitely, like you said, can be cathartic. I wouldn't say it's my gift. It's definitely a skill you have to work at like anything. And I will leave that to the professionals. And you can't be weak at heart. So
Mhm.
outstanding. I'll have to Google and see if there's any footage of Neda stand-up comedy. I'm so interested. So before we wrap up, I have two questions left that I'm sure will answer a lot of people's questions, but based on your understanding and practice of, wearing hijab and the understanding of the Quran, when do you take off your hijab and who gets to see you without hijab on?
I mean, to keep up with tradition, because again, it is a practice that I want to stay as consistent as possible in. And that includes like the submission aspect of it, which is that like, if God has commanded that, like, you keep the hijab on around like, around men who are not related to you, like, it's an act of submission, right. So, for me to keep up with like that religious practice, and that tradition and what I see as like an act of submission is, I keep it on in public. I can take it up in front of like, family or spouse or other women.
Got it. Wonderful. And so I think that actually was my last question. If it hits me before you wrap up, I will definitely ask it. But I appreciate that, just because a lot of people don't understand that. I know, I think I've shared previously in other episodes, but that I traveled to Dubai and Nairobi, Kenya at one point with a friend. And during that trip, of course, most of the people that we were staying with and visiting were Muslim. And so I was an unwed, actually going through a divorce. So we didn't obviously tell anybody that, but for just avoid awkwardness. But for out of respect, like I actually would eat in a separate room with the wives, because I was an unwed woman. And when asked to do so, I would actually wear hijab or just a head covering, not full hijab. Well, actually there was a few times that I did wear full hijab. And then also the like mosque in Abu Dhabi provides burqas and head coverings when you arrive. And I just thought that was really beautiful. And obviously I had no problem respecting that because it's such a beautiful place. And if this is the practice of this location, why wouldn't I respect that? Have you had any incidences of people like responding negatively to you? Or is it for the most part pretty positive?
As far as wearing hijab or pull on hijab?
We're going to let people just go look at your social media because, again, you have a wonderful sense of humor. Your comebacks to folks are just so witty, and I look for them every day. So if you see me liking 6 things in a row, I am not ashamed. They're great. But mostly in person, because you, like you said, you are, a nurse and you have a practice and you want your clients to know actually that they're a Muslim woman serving them. So like, yeah, how do your patients and clients actually like respond to you?
I cannot remember a negative interaction. Like, I mean, I got kicked out of a patient's room once because she didn't want a Jewish nurse taking care of her. And I'm like, I will let you have this bigotry because I'm confused.
Right.
Yeah. I was like, okay, I don't want to take care of you anyway. Bye.
Right.
Exactly. But I mean, yeah, like, being Iranian, like if I've, because again, there are people that see hijab as empowering and there's people that see it as oppressive. And Iran is one of those countries where hijab is rightfully seen as oppressive because of the way that it is enforced. Right. Just like with nudity, right? Some sex workers, for example, see sex work as empowering and some see it as very oppressive. Right. And they're only tolerating it, because they got bills or someone to take care of and so on. But my point is that, I did get a lot of negative reactions from other Iranians when I started wearing hijab, because they saw me as like doing a practice that they had been trying to get away from for so long. Right. But just the way that I respond to them in that situation is, you left a country that wanted to force you what to wear, so it's like if you're trying to tell me to take something off, then you're doing something similar, Very
similar. Good point. Like it should really be your choice. And that actually did lead to my other question in regards to, who gets to see you with it, on or off, is for you, just for people who maybe didn't hear it the first time or need to rehear it. When you say it's an act of submission, you do not mean to a man or a physical human, you mean to God.
Yeah.
right? Or to
Mhm.
Allah. And so a lot of people really misunderstand that, or that's how I know it's been misconstrued in some cultural contexts, is that they see it as women submitting to men, and that's not the intention. It's really supposed
Mhm.
to be like your act of submission to God.
Yeah,
And
and praying is an act of submission as well,
mhm.
right? Hijab is not the only act of submission, it's just one of many.
Right. And that's why I've always respected Islam because
Mm.
those who practice diligently, no matter how dogmatic you want to practice, if that's the appropriate word, really, just like how disciplined you want to be, with those people, it takes a lot of discipline and consistency. And like you said, that's your way of practicing and showing your submission to God. And I think it's just really beautiful.
Mhm.
I definitely no, I don't have that level of discipline. And so I just really respect it because I'm like, no, I'm a hot girl and I would be just sweaty. So if you
Mm.
want to DM me later, Netta, on
Mhm.
tips about sweatiness, because I feel like maybe you have some secrets. I'm all for it because yeah, that's definitely one reason now I don't always head wrap. Just in general, even for fashion reasons, and I don't wear certain things because I'm real hot. So I respect you for the decision and the reason why you've made it, like you said, as an expression of submission to God. That's ultimately just really beautiful, honestly, and respectable. I don't know how anybody could see that otherwise. But is there any like last words, anything that we didn't cover that you're like, no, people really need to know this about people who wear hijab?
Um, yeah, like I said, I think it is going to be empowering to some, but again, it is, it is, some people see it as oppressive as well, and that's okay. You know, I'm not trying to tell people, no, hijab is empowering, you got it wrong. Like, no, it's empowering in the context that I was raised in, or in the context of living and being born in the US,
Right.
you know. So I mean, that's my experience. I just know that I think what we have to be careful of is that you're using hijab for yourself as oppressive, it's fine. But when you try to force your experience onto other people, that they need to take off what they're wearing, like, again, that's also an act of oppression.
Right. Right. Which it would be oppressing you to make you not wear it when you've made a conscious decision to wear it, right? So it would
Mm.
be really a violation of you to make you remove your head covering. So I definitely, like I said, I respect it. I think it's ultimately a really beautiful decision. And like you said, a badge to, wave your flag of pride for, your religious and cultural beliefs. With that being said, I really encourage, I don't want to make the like spokesperson of hijab wearing. That was not the intention of this conversation. So if you want to continue the conversation, please do so in my comments, and I'd be happy to link you to resourceful links. I don't want you hitting up like Neda is like all about hijab. Like no, I don't think that was the intention of the conversation. I just wanted you to see there was someone who made the decision after 18 that didn't grow up wearing hijab and also has used it in a liberating way, which was, no offense, but I'm biased. What better way to be liberated than in pole dancing? So I'm glad you found that as your kind of your niche. And that people have, found their liberation through it as well. So please, right now, everybody take a moment to go follow Neda. All of her hijabalicious links will be posted down below. And also don't forget to hit the subscribe button, turn on your notifications so you don't miss the next Taboo Talks. See you next time.